All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking a really chilling story. It's about a place with a dark, and I mean deadly secret. So you might want to brace yourselves because this one gets intense.
So picture this. It's freezing cold. We're at a city morgue. And that's where our story really kicks off, with the tragic death of a young student named Vikram. His life was just cut short, and nobody seems to know why.
And right away we get our first clue. Where did they find him? His body was recovered from behind this infamous place called Victoria Hostel. Just hearing the name gives you a chill, right? It's this desolate, rundown spot that you just know is hiding some dark secrets.
And get this, the guy in charge of the morgue says Vikram's death isn't a one-off thing. Not even close. He calls it an orgy of death. Can you believe that? He's basically saying there's this whole string of mysterious tragedies, and they all point back to that one hostel. Okay, so let's zoom in on that scene at the morgue. This is really where the engine of a story starts turning. You've got this raw, powerful grief crashing right into the official investigation, and it quickly explodes into a demand for answers. Now. So Vikram's dad, Umesh, he's just broken, totally overwhelmed by grief. And he takes all that pain and aims it right at the lead investigator, a guy named Inspector Kabir. He basically threatens him, saying, "You find out what happened to my son, or I'll ruin you." He's putting all the responsibility squarely on Kabir's shoulders.
And that moment right there, that's a huge turning point. That tense, emotional showdown really cements the mission for Inspector Kabir. It's not just another case anymore. Now, he's carrying the weight of this grieving father's promise.
You can see it just hits him. Moved by that raw pain, Kabir makes this solemn vow. He looks that father in the eye and promises he's going to solve this mystery, no matter who's behind it, no matter what it takes. He basically just set his own life on a collision course with whatever's hiding in that hostel.
So how is he going to do that? Well, to get answers, he knows he has to get inside. He can't just knock on the front door. So he decides to go undercover, posing as a student to try and get inside the mysterious Victoria Hostel. And the second he gets there, red flags are flying everywhere. The first thing you notice is just how weird the location is. I mean, who builds a hostel at the end of a hill right next to a ditch? It's totally isolated, almost like it's meant to be hidden. You can't help but wonder what they're trying to hide.
And here's where it gets really strange. The place is like Jekyll and Hyde. By day, it's a total ghost town. Silent, empty, locked down tight, zero activity. But then, as soon as the sun goes down, bam! Lights flick on, you see shadows moving in the windows, you hear a commotion. I mean, what kind of place only comes alive at night? And the weirdness just keeps piling on. The warden gives him a key and just points to this rule board. And the rules are something else. First, no one can talk to anyone. Second, you can't go into anyone else's room, and no one can come into yours. And third, once you're in your room, you do not come out. You know, this isn't a hostel. This is basically a prison. Total isolation. All right. So with those bizarre rules hanging in the air, Kabir goes to his room, number 307. And it's right here, once he's locked inside, that the real horror of Victoria Hostel starts to claw its way out. Suddenly, this absolutely blood-curdling scream just tears through the corridor. It's the kind of sound that should have everyone throwing their doors open. But nothing. Not a single door opens. Everyone else just stays locked away in this completely unnatural, chilling silence. So Kabir's not having any of that. He ignores the rules, breaks down the door to a room nearby, and it's not a student in there. What he finds is a room that's been completely torched, and on the floor is a charred skeleton, a previous victim. And then, in a split second, the whole thing just explodes. The entire hostel bursts into flames. Now he hears screams from behind every door. A wall of fire comes rushing down the hall right at him. His own clothes catch fire. He's literally trapped in a waking nightmare.
Somehow he manages to escape. He's injured, terrified, and he stumbles outside. And who does he see? The watchman, just standing there, totally calm in the middle of all this fire and chaos. Kabir runs up to him, desperate, yelling, "What is going on here?"
And the watchman, he turns really slowly. And when he does, Kabir sees his face is just horrifically burned. And then he says this line that will just freeze your blood. "Babu, the dead do not need a doctor." And right there,
the terrible, supernatural truth hits him. They're all dead already. So now Kabir is cornered, literally held against a wall by these spirits of the dead. And it's then that the watchman finally tells him the whole tragic story, the original act of evil that started this whole cursed nightly fire.
So it all started 4 years ago. It wasn't a ghost story back then. It was brutal corporate sabotage. See, a rival builder sent an arsonist to the hostel. This guy went through, locked everyone in their rooms from the outside, students, staff, everyone, and then he just burned the entire place to the ground. A horrific mass murder.
And that's the heart of the curse. The person who did this, he got away. He was never caught, never punished. So the spirits of everyone who died here are restless. They're trapped, forced to relive their fiery deaths over and over again, because there's been no justice.
So here's the truly terrible part. Because they're so vengeful, so desperate for justice, the ghosts now see every single new visitor as their killer. Anyone who steps foot in that hostel at night becomes, in their eyes, the man who murdered them. And so they make that person relive their death and die with them.
Which, of course, brings us back to the most terrifying question of all. What about Inspector Kabir, the guy who made that solemn promise to a grieving father? He's trapped inside, and an entire hostel full of vengeful spirits thinks he's the one who killed them.
And this is where the story leaves us, on this incredibly chilling, open-ended note. The implication is, well, there's no need to spell it out, is there? It suggests Kabir met the exact same fate as Vikram, and everyone else who dared to stay the night. We're left to imagine his final moments. A truly haunting way to end.